What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Braveheart Poker. This is episode number 2. I'm having a great time doing these videos. It is certainly frustrating at times, and I'm learning how everything goes. But hopefully you guys have seen a big increase in quality, and I'm planning on making that the quality go up. I've got to figure out a couple little things here and there, but hopefully you guys like the differences between the first video and this one. I know that I just started this vlog, and I don't have a lot of viewers yet, but any comments that you guys leave, I really appreciate it. All the feedback that you guys want to give, I would appreciate it. Also, any of those likes and subscribes that a few people have given me, it's very uplifting, even though it's just a couple and I'm just getting started. Every one at this point, is super important. So thanks to those of you that have done it, and to those of you who are going to. So let's get into the action. All right, here we go. First hand is a bomb pot. It's the first hand of the session for everybody. And we get pocket sevens. We get 2 red sevens, and the flop is 2, 3, 4. Everyone is in there with 100% of their range, so we need to be super careful in situations like that, because it's super possible that somebody could have flopped a set or a straight or 2 pair, and we just won't really know. But it checks to me, and I bet out $60 taking a stab at it. We get the big blind to call, and everyone else folds, so good turnout there. Much better than having a bunch of opponents. The turn comes the 3 of clubs, which gives us 2 pair. That doesn't necessarily mean make our hand better. The big blind leads for 50, and I make the call. The river comes another 3, so we improve to a full house, and now we think that we have the best hand. And he checks, and I just check and show the full house. I don't know if we're going to get paid off by better, or by worse rather, so I elect just to check on the river instead of going for thin value in this spot. Plus, it's the starting of the session, and everyone's playing pretty slow so far. This hand is the very next hand, and we get Queen 9 suited, and Queen 9 suited is one of my favorite hands. Not for any good reason. I just, it was one of my favorite hands when I first started playing poker, and I don't know, now maybe I'm a little bit too loose with it. But I limp, which isn't something you should be doing with this hand. I think you should be raising it if you're going to play it, but I limp anyway. We get a whole bunch of limps, 7 to be exact. So we're doing 7 ways to a flop. See, I'm adjusting all my stuff. I'm using a sort of a tripod this session. We get a queen in the window, but it's followed by a king, so we flop second pair, middling kicker, and we've got some backdoor draws. We can go runner straight, runner flush. The player to my right bets 20. I elect to make the loose call, and one other player. It says button here on the screen, but it was actually the small blind. So that becomes important in a little bit. Turn is the 6 of clubs. Shouldn't really improve anybody. So it's not too much of a scare card, but we certainly didn't improve, and so we're done if anybody bets. But it checks to me, and I check back, and we can see a free river, which is the 9 of spades. So we get super lucky, and I improve to a hand that we can bet. It checks to us. This is why it was important, because if it was the button, we would have had a player behind. But since we were in position, we can feel pretty comfortable about betting. And 7-8 gets there, but I can't put anybody on 7-8. And 10-jack gets there, but I feel like if either of the players had 10-jack, they would have bet it. Which is, one of the reasons why it's good to be in position. So the small blind ends up making the fold, and we're hoping real bad for a call from the player to our right. And you can tell that she is trying to make sense of it, or trying to fold, or trying to find a reason to call. And right about here, I'm like, oh yeah, she's not calling, which is sad. She flicks in a chip and says, I call, shows top pair, no kicker, and we show her the bad news. So 2 hands in, and we have won them both. So off to a hot start. This session goes by super quickly. In this next hand, it's about 4 hands later. We are on the button with ace-4 of clubs, and we limp. Probably should be raising or folding, but we limp anyway, and we get a nice flop. Under the gun, bets 15, middle position player calls, middle position player folds. The low jack makes a raise to 60. Then the hijack 3 bets to 200. And then the cutoff 4 bet all in. And I've got a decision to make here. Do me a favor, pause the video and let me know in the comments if you think I should have folded or called or jammed my whole stack in there. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. This ends up being a crazy hand, just because of the situation that I'll go into a little bit. But yeah, let me know. I end up going for the jam. So I go 825, and then the big blind folds. The middle position player just looks dumbstruck and ends up folding. And then the same scenario with the low jack. The low jack is just, seems like he's tortured, but he ends up making the fold. And then the hijack calls my all in, and he's got me covered by a lot. So we're looking for a club here because we know that we're not good, and we turn a 10 and river a 3 of diamonds. So we lose this one. The person that jammed for less had 8-9 of hearts. The person that called my all in that had me covered had ace-9 suited. The player that had raised to 60 in the low jack said that he had 8-9 of diamonds, and so he folded bottom 2 pair and would have went runner for the flush and would have had the best hand. And the other player down at the end, who couldn't believe the spot he was in, claimed that he had ace 8 of the last 2 ace and 8 in the deck. And so 3 players flopped 2 pair, and I flopped the top pair on top of that, and that locks up all the aces, 8s, and 9s in the deck. So the case card of all 3 of them came on the flop, and that's why it makes this hand so crazy, because I mean that just never happens. The tabletop about it went on for a good 5 minutes, particularly by the player that won, because you know he was more excited than the rest of us were at this point. So we end up having to add on after this hand. After getting felted, we had built up a couple $100 in profit and lost it all. Had we won, though, we would have been over 3 times our money. The very next hand, we get pocket 7s. And the flop comes low cards. I had bet 60 on the flop. We got 1 caller. And then on the turn, the board bearing deuce, I bet 130. The player that I'm up against asked how much I was playing behind. So I end up counting out my stack to show him. And this player that I'm playing against is a pretty sticky player, willing to make some loose calls and get in there and mix it up a bit. So he's great action. He's a good player too. So you always got to be careful when you're playing against him. So I count out my chips and he folds. So we are on the comeback trail. The very next hand after the pocket 7s hand, I didn't hit the record button because I'm not quite good at all of this yet, but We had pocket 8s, and we raised it to 20 and get 4 callers, so 5 of us total. And I didn't do any of the graphics for it, but the flop came out 4-9 queen, and it checked through, which was nice, free card. And the turn came an 8, and so we made a set. One of the players that was still in the hand let out for a decent amount. I made the call. Everyone else folded. The river came a brick. We'll just say it was a deuce. So we've got third set, and the only hand we're really concerned about is 10 jack for a turn straight, and maybe bigger sets, I guess. But the other player, Andy, decides to jam for 195 total, and we just make the snap call. We're not going to fold for $200 with a set. And we get shown the bad news. We lost to 10 jack. So the card that made our hand also made Andy's hand, and nice hand, Andy. But that sucks. So that's 3 hands in a row right there. And so this hand is the very next hand after that. And we have 7-4 suited, and we've got an early position raised to 25. The player to my right, who is short stacked with $40, goes all in for 40. And I do the math and know that if I call the 40, then the early position player can't re-raise. So I had made the call, and that was him asking, can I raise here? And I told him, nope, you sure can't. And he was like, yeah, I saw you doing the math. I didn't think I could, but I wanted to make sure anyway. So we get to go 3 ways to a flop, 1 all in, me and one other player on the side, and we get a flush draw and a pair. He c-bets for 75, and we just lost that big hand to Andy, and so we just jam here for 295 and get snap called, and we're looking for a diamond, which does not come. So we end up with 2 pair, which is going to lose to ace queen for a better 2 pair. So we rebuy, we get 1,400 more, and it's time to try and run up and get our money back. A little while later, we get 8-10 of spades, and once again I came in late to the recording, and I make it 70, and I get 3 callers. So it's a decent sized pot already, and we're hoping to get a spade here, and we do not get one on the turn. It is the 3 of diamonds. It goes check, check, and then on to me, and I check, and Caleb to my left is last action. And I don't know if I think that I should continue betting here or not. I'm gonna bet as a bluff and hope to not get raised, or just kind of be in a bet fold mode on this. But I like to make the check and hope to get a free card. And Caleb does not allow us to do that. He goes all in for 725. One of the other players at the end of the table is thinking about it, and I don't know what hands he is over jamming with. It's almost 2x pot. I don't know. I don't think he would do it with a set. Probably wouldn't do it with a flush draw. We block like the ace-8 of spades. We block 9-10 of spades. So maybe like a weird 2 pair that's in there. Excuse me. So eventually, the guy down at the end decides to make the fold. And when it comes back to me, I want to make this call so much, but I'm also thinking at the same time, I'm already stuck pretty good, and do I want to be chasing flushes? We could also get 2 pair or trips, but I fold, and I ask Caleb if he minds if they show the river, and he doesn't mind, and we see the 3 of spades, and he shows just a jack. So we most likely would have won that one, but I think it's a good fold. We were obviously behind. We would have needed to improve, but it always sucks to know that you would have gotten there. In this one, we've got another bomb pot. We got 8 players to a flop, and we have 7-3 suited. So it could be terrible, it could be wonderful. It's a bomb pot. We flop ourselves second pair and some not so great backdoor draws. I check it. Caleb to my left bets 25 and gets a call. And then gets another call. And another call. And then another call. And I'm going to call because, why not? We got a pair. So we're going to go to a turn, and it is a great turn. It's the 6 of clubs. Yes, it pairs the board, but we have a straight flush draw. Or so I thought in my head at the time. I was filming from a different angle, so I couldn't really go back and look at my cards, but for whatever reason, I thought that I had the 7-4 of clubs. So I'm thinking that we've got one out to the stone cold nuts, and I check it, and Caleb checks it, and next player bets 50, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to make this call because I got one out to a straight flush, and why not? I'm stuck. Let's try and hit something big. Here's me making the call, and then Caleb folds. So it is heads up to the river, which comes the 4 of clubs. So now I know that I did not have a straight flush draw, and I remember that I had 7-3 of clubs. However, we did improve to a flush, and I make a blocker bet of 75 because I don't want him to make some crazy bet, and he pretty quickly makes the call. So maybe we could have gotten more, but I didn't want to check and have it check through, or have it check and him bet 300. And the player shows 5-6. I actually thought he had a full house and was saying, oh, I got a boat. But I could see the 5 from where I was sitting, and I was like, oh, there's no way you could have a boat. Yeah, and then he realized, oh, I had the straight. So this one worked out for us really, really well. But that'll teach you to not know what you have in your hand. In this one, we were playing against Andy again. Andy was the one that hit the straight when we hit a set. Actually went $35 pre-flop, and we're heads up with Andy. I checked, and Andy bets 65, and I was thinking here that I should probably raise. I can get off of all of his ace high hands, his C bets, anything that he missed here. I probably wouldn't get him off like 10 queen, but I elected just to make the call, and we get a good card considering it didn't improve us. We added a straight draw, and a good one, because if we get a clean 3, then it'd be pretty disguised, and we can get paid off by queen king, ace king, king jack even. And so we continue in flow and check, and Andy bets out 140. And here in this spot, the best thing to do, I think, would probably be to raise. Andy is definitely an aggressive player that can show up with a lot of different holdings, but he can also bluff 2 streets, and we can get him to fold out all of those hands. And if we get re-raised all in, then we can probably just get away from it, or maybe even call, depending on our raise sizing. But we end up making the call. We make the passive move and hope for a 3 or a diamond, and we get the 6 of hearts. So we miss, and I considered for a little bit jamming all in here. I think we're going to get called by a lot of Andy's range. Probably all of his jacks will call. Jacks, pocket queens, any of his kings are going to call. But we check to him, and he thinks about it. He checks back, and I tell him, if you got anything, you're good. I show my hand, and he shows the 2-street bluff with a better hand. So he had us outkicked on our second hand. This one is the last big hand of the night, essentially the last hand of the night for us, and we have ace 10 of spades, and we have about 550 in stack, and I was really contemplating just leaving with my last 500 and trying to not lose it all. I know it's pretty unlikely for us to get even at this point, and I didn't really want to play in a big pot. However, we make it $40 pre-flop and get 3 callers and flop ourselves yet another nut flush draw. So we end up making the c-bet for $115, and we are hoping for a call and also hoping for folds. We do get 1 call from the button, and the other 2 players make the fold. So please, one time, please let us just hit one of our nut flush draws, and we do. So thank God we get the stone cold nuts. Now, can we get paid? So obviously the most straightforward draw got there, and so we just make a tiny bet of 100, and we get pretty quickly called. Then the Queen of Hearts comes out, so we still have the stone cold nuts, and we're super happy. And now we just need to figure out how to get it all, and we only have about half of a pot size bet, so we're gonna get called by most of his range. We go all in, and he had said I call, and then said, do you have a flush? But I didn't hear him say I call, and neither did the dealer. So I wanted to make sure before I showed it that that's what he said. But he did say, oh yeah, I said I call, and then I showed it to him. So a little bit of a slow roll by accident. But we win. We double up, and we got our stack back to a reasonable size. So that's good. Kind of a crazy session. All those hands in the first couple hands, all of it happened within 20 minutes. It was just good hand or playable hand after playable hand. So it was kind of a crazy session. But yeah, that's poker sometimes. So we take a kind of a hit to the bankroll tonight, but you know, what can you do? It's poker. All right, that was it for vlog number 2. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and please let me know in the comments what you thought, or if there's any areas that you think I can improve on. I'd really like to know. Have a good one. Thanks so much.